The morning mist hung thick over the rice fields like a gray blanket. Hannah walked slowly along the muddy paths between her paddies, her weathered hands checking each plant with care. She'd been farming this land for 60 years, just like her mother and grandmother before her. Every morning was the same routine, but today something felt different. The water in the fields moved in strange ways. Small waves rippled across the surface, but there was no wind. Hannah stopped and watched the patterns carefully. The ripples came in perfect circles, one after another, like stones dropping into still water. But she saw no stones, no fish jumping, nothing that could make such waves. She bent down and touched the water with her finger. It was warm, warmer than it should be in the early morning. The ripples continued, spreading out in perfect rings every few seconds. Hannah had seen many things in her long life, but never anything like this. High above the earth, something watched her every move. The Caltharian warship Silent Talon hung in the darkness of space, invisible to human eyes and machines. Its hull was black as the void between stars, covered in technology that bent light around it like water flowing around a stone. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of his ship, looking down at the small blue planet below. His forearms moved over the control panels with practiced ease. His large yellow eyes studied the data streams flowing across the screens. According to their scans, the humans were simple creatures. They grew food in the dirt, lived in small groups, and had barely begun to explore their own solar system. Perfect targets, Vextar thought to himself. The Caltharian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds just like this one. The pattern was always the same. Scout the planet, study the inhabitants, then strike fast and hard before they could organize any defense. "Commander," called his second officer, Drakmor, "the bioships are ready for deployment." Vextar nodded his approval. The bioships were their greatest weapon. Living creatures bred and trained for war, they looked like huge dragons with wings that stretched wider than any human building. But these dragons were special. Their skin could become transparent, bending light around them until they were completely invisible. They could fly through the air or swim through water without being seen. "Send them down," Vextar ordered. Want a full survey of their military capabilities. Focus on the agricultural regions first. If these humans are as primitive as they appear, we can begin the harvest within a standard cycle. 3 bioships launched from the Silent Talon, their massive forms graceful despite their size. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, their skin began to shimmer and fade until they became like ghosts in the sky. The lead ship, piloted by Drakmor himself, headed toward the rice fields of the Korean peninsula. Back on the ground, Hannah continued her morning work. She moved from field to field, but everywhere she went, the strange ripples followed. It was as if something large was moving beneath the water, something that stayed just out of sight. Her grandson Kiwan arrived just as the sun cleared the morning mist. He was a tall young man with kind eyes and hands that were soft from working with computers instead of soil. He worked at the university in Seoul, studying something called quantum physics. Hannah never understood exactly what that meant, but she was proud of him anyway. "Good morning, grandmother," Kiwan said, giving her a respectful bow. "How are the fields today?" "Strange," Hannah replied, pointing at the water. "Look at the waves. They come and go, but there is no reason for them." Kiwan looked where she pointed, but he only saw normal water with a few small ripples. "It's probably just fish, grandmother. Or maybe the water table is shifting because of the rain last week." "No," Hannah said firmly. "Fish do not make waves like this. And I know every sound the water makes in every season." "This is different," Kiwan smiled gently. His grandmother was wise about many things, but sometimes she saw patterns that were not really there. "The mind looks for meaning even where none exists," his physics professor always said. Maybe grandmother was just getting old, but Hannah was not getting old in her mind, only in her body. She had learned to read the language of water and wind and growing things before she could read words on a page. Every farmer in her family had passed down the same skills. Watch for changes, notice what does not belong. Trust your eyes and your Feelings more than what others tell you, above her. Invisible to her eyes, but not to her other senses, Drakmar guided his bioship in slow circles over the rice fields. The creature was massive, nearly as long as 3 city buses placed end to end. Its transparent wings moved silently through the air, and its huge eyes studied everything below. The bioship was alive, not just a machine. It breathed, it thought. It felt hunger and pain and joy. Right now, it felt curious about the small figures moving through the water below. The old female especially interested it. She kept looking up, as if she could sense something watching her. Drakmar was not worried. Humans had primitive eyes that could only see a tiny part of the light spectrum. Their technology was crude, barely able to detect radio waves and simple electromagnetic patterns. The bioship's transparency was perfect. No human instrument could detect them, but the bioship was large and heavy, even when invisible. As it flew over the rice fields, its massive body pushed air downward. When it passed close to the water, that air pressure created small waves on the surface. The waves spread out in perfect circles, one after another. As regular as a heartbeat. Hannah saw these waves and knew they meant something important. She took out a small notebook from her pocket and began to draw the patterns she saw. Circle after circle, she marked the size and timing of each wave. Her drawings were simple but precise, showing exactly where each ripple began and how far it spread. Kiwan watched his grandmother, drawing in her notebook, and shook his head. "Grandmother, you're seeing things that aren't there." "It's just water being water." "Maybe," Hannah said quietly. "But water tells stories to those who know how to listen. And this story is about something big, something that hides but cannot help. Leaving traces." She looked up at the empty sky above her fields. Nothing was there that she could see. But something was definitely there that she could feel. Something was watching, waiting, studying her and her family and her land. The question was what it wanted, and whether it came as friend or enemy. Dual perspective introduction. The narrative alternates between Hannah's ground-level observations and the Caltharian fleet's space-based surveillance, creating dramatic irony as readers understand both sides of the conflict. Technology versus intuition theme. Hannah's traditional pattern-reading skills are contrasted with both her grandson's scientific skepticism and the aliens' advanced technology. Setting up the story's central theme. Alien threat revelation. The Caltharians are revealed as a conquering empire with bioship technology, establishing them as formidable antagonists with superior technology but potential blind spots. Human detection capability. Hannah's ability to detect the invisible ships through water displacement patterns demonstrates humanity's evolved natural sensing abilities that the aliens haven't considered. Character dynamics. The relationship between traditional Hannah and modern Kiwan represents generational differences in approaching unexplained phenomena with respect but fundamental disagreement. Tension building. The story establishes mounting tension as the aliens prepare for invasion while being unknowingly detected by the one human they underestimate most. 3 days had passed since Hannah first noticed the strange ripples in her rice fields. Every morning she went out with her notebook and charcoal stick, drawing the patterns she saw in the water. The circles always came in the same order. First 3 small ones, then 2 larger ones, then a pause. Then the pattern repeated. She spread her drawings on the wooden table in her kitchen, studying them like a scholar reads ancient texts. Her neighbor Minji knocked on the door and came inside without waiting for an answer. This was the way in their small village. Friends were family, and family did not need permission to enter. "What are you working on so early, Hannah?" Minji asked, setting down a basket of fresh vegetables from her garden. Minji was younger than Hannah by 10 years, but still old enough to remember when things were different. She had worked as an engineer for the military before retiring to the countryside. Her eyes were still sharp and her mind still quick with numbers and patterns. "Look at these," Hannah said, pointing to her drawings. "Every day the same patterns in the water, but I see nothing that could make them." Minji picked up the papers and studied them carefully. Her engineer's mind began to work on the problem immediately. "These are very regular," she said slowly. too regular for fish or wind. See how the spacing is exactly the same every time? Yes, Hannah nodded, and they always happen at the same times. Early morning, then again at midday, then once more just before sunset. Like patrol schedules, Minji whispered, more to herself. Then to Hannah, what did you say? Nothing, just thinking out loud, but Minji's mind was racing. During her years in the military, she had learned to recognize surveillance patterns. These ripples looked like the kind of regular movement that came from organized observation. That afternoon, both women went to the rice fields together. Minji brought a small device that measured electromagnetic fields, something left over from her engineering days. As they walked between the paddies, the device remained quiet. But when the ripples appeared in the water, the device suddenly started clicking rapidly. There, Minji said, pointing at the screen. Strong electromagnetic disturbance, but it's not coming from any human source I recognize. Hannah nodded. She had known something was wrong, but now she had proof that even modern machines could detect it. What do you think it is? I don't know yet, Minji replied. But I know someone who might be able to help us figure it out. The next morning, Minji brought her friend Soman to the fields. Soman was a marine biologist who studied life in the coastal waters near their village. She was a quiet woman with patient eyes and hands that moved gently through water like she was greeting old friends. Show me what you've been seeing, Soman said to Hannah. They waited by the largest rice field as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Right on schedule, the ripples began. First the 3 small circles, then the 2 larger ones, then the pause, then... The pattern repeated. Soman watched carefully, then walked to the edge of the field and put her hand in the water. The temperature is wrong, she said after a moment. This water is 2 degrees warmer than it should be. What could cause that? Minji asked. Something large moving through the water, something that generates heat. Soman looked up at the empty sky above them. Or something large moving through the air above the water. Meanwhile, high above the earth, Captain Vextar was growing impatient. His bioships had been conducting surveillance for 5 days, but the information they gathered was confusing. The humans seemed to live simple lives, growing food and caring for their families. They had no visible weapons, no military formations, no signs of advanced technology, but something was bothering him. His pilot Drakmer had reported that some of the humans were acting strangely, particularly one old female who kept staring at the sky and making marks on primitive paper. She cannot possibly detect our bioships, Vextar told himself. Their transparency is perfect. No human technology can penetrate it. But doubt crept into his mind like cold water. The Caltharian Empire had conquered many worlds, but they had learned to be careful. Sometimes primitive species had unexpected abilities. It was better to be cautious than to be surprised. Drakmer, he called to his pilot. Change your flight patterns. If the humans are somehow tracking your movements, irregular timing should confuse them. Down in the bioship, Drakmer received the order and felt confused. The old female human was clearly primitive. She used simple tools and lived in a basic dwelling. How could she possibly detect their advanced technology? But orders were orders. He began to vary his patrol times, sometimes coming early, sometimes late, sometimes not at all. He also changed his flight paths, moving in different directions. Over the rice fields dotting her kitchen that evening, Hannah spread out her latest drawings. But these patterns were different from the ones before. The timing was irregular now, and the ripples came from different directions. It's learning, she said quietly to Minji and Soman, who had stayed for dinner. What do you mean? Soman asked. Whatever is making these patterns, it knows I'm watching. It's trying to confuse me by changing its behavior. Minji felt a chill run down her spine. That suggests intelligence. High intelligence. The 3 women sat in silence for a moment, thinking about what this meant. Something invisible was flying over their village. Something smart enough to realize it was being watched and clever enough to try to hide its true patterns. We need more information, Minji said finally. I'm going to call my son Jiho. He works with computers and sensors in Seoul. Maybe he can bring equipment that will help us understand what we're dealing with. Good idea, Hannah agreed. But remember, we must be careful. If this thing is intelligent, it might be dangerous too. That night, Dracomer flew his bioship over the village in complete darkness. The humans below were sleeping, unaware of the massive creature passing overhead. He felt confident that his changes in routine had solved the detection problem, but in her small house, Hannah lay awake listening to the sounds of the night. She heard the rice plants rustling without wind. She heard the water moving in patterns that did not match the rhythm of the earth, and she heard something else, something so faint that only someone who had listened to the land for 60 years could detect it, the sound of something very large breathing. She got up quietly and went to her window. Outside, the night was dark and still, but she could feel something there, something watching and waiting. Tomorrow, she would need to be even more careful. Tomorrow, she would need to be ready for whatever came next, because she was certain now that whatever was hiding in the sky above her village was not from Earth. Part Description Pattern Documentation. Hannah systematically records the water ripples, demonstrating methodical observation skills that reveal the aliens, surveillance schedule, and flight patterns. Alliance formation. The introduction of Minji, former military engineer, and Soman, marine biologist, creates a team combining traditional wisdom with modern technical knowledge, scientific evidence. The electromagnetic readings and temperature changes provide concrete proof that something unusual is present, validating Hannah's observations with measurable data. Alien adaptation. Captain Vexstar and Drakmor recognize they may be detected and change their patterns, showing the aliens are intelligent and capable of tactical thinking. Counter-adaptation. Hannah realizes the invisible presence is actively trying to evade detection, demonstrating her ability to read behavioral changes in her unseen watchers. Escalating awareness. Both sides become more cautious and sophisticated in their approach, setting up an intelligence game between human intuition and alien technology. Reinforcement. Call. The decision to bring in Jiho with modern equipment bridges the gap between traditional observation and contemporary technology, preparing for the next phase of investigation. A week had passed since Hannah first called for help. Jiho arrived from Seoul in his small car, the back seat filled with electronic equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. He was Minji's son, a thin young man with quick fingers and eyes that never stopped moving. He worked for a technology company that made sensors for the government. "Mother says you've been seeing strange things," Jiho said to Hannah as he unloaded his equipment. "I brought everything I could. Think of motion detectors, heat sensors, electromagnetic field readers, even some experimental stuff we're working on." Hannah watched him set up his devices around the rice fields. The machines were impressive, with flashing lights and digital displays showing numbers that changed constantly. But she had been thinking about a different approach to their problem. "Jiho," she said quietly, "your machines are very clever. But sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways." She walked back to her house and returned carrying something wrapped in silk cloth. When she unwrapped it, the others saw an ancient bronze Mire, its surface dark and spotted with age, but still able to reflect light clearly. "This mirror has been in my family for 8 generations, Hannah explained. "My great-great-great-grandmother brought it when she first came to this land. She said it was blessed to show the truth even when people tried to hide it." Minji looked at the old mirror with respect. "It's beautiful, Hannah, but how can it help us?" "Light," Hannah said simply. "If something is there but we cannot see it, maybe we can use light to find it." That afternoon, the 4 of them took positions around the largest rice field. Jiho's electronic sensors were ready, beeping softly as they watched for any unusual activity. Soman had her notebook out, prepared to record water temperature and movement patterns. Minji held her electromagnetic detector, its small screen glowing green in the afternoon sun. Hannah sat on a wooden stool by the water's edge, holding the bronze mirror in her lap. She had polished it until it shone like gold, and now she waited patiently for the right moment. At exactly 2 o'clock, the familiar ripples began to appear in the water. Jiho's sensors immediately started clicking and flashing. Soman recorded the water temperature spike. Minji's detector showed strong electromagnetic disturbance moving overhead. "It's here," Minji whispered, "right above us." Hannah lifted the bronze mirror and angled it toward the sun. The bright afternoon light reflected off its surface in a brilliant beam. She moved the mirror slowly, sweeping the reflected sunlight back and forth across the empty sky above the rice field. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly the light beam hit something that should not have been there. For just an instant, a huge shape became visible in the sky. It looked like an enormous dragon with wings spread wide, its body shimmering like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "There!" Hannah shouted, keeping the mirror focused on the spot. "Do you see it?" The others stared in amazement. The creature was massive, easily as long as their entire village. Its skin was transparent, like looking through thick glass, but the reflected sunlight made its outline visible. Wings that could cover a football field beat slowly through the air, and two huge eyes looked down at them with obvious intelligence. "Impossible," Jeho breathed, his sensors going crazy with readings he had never seen before. "It's some kind of living aircraft. The technology to make something that size invisible, it's beyond anything we have on Earth." Above them, Drakmor felt a moment of panic as the bright light hit his bioship. The creature's natural transparency was perfect against most forms of detection, but it had one weakness. When strong light hit it at exactly the right angle, the light bent around it in ways that made its outline visible for a few seconds. In all their conquests, the Caltharians had never encountered a species that used simple reflected sunlight as a detection method. It was so primitive, so basic, that their advanced technology had no defense against it. "Commander," Drakmor called urgently to Captain Vextar through his communication device, "the humans have detected us. They're using reflected solar radiation." On the bridge of the Silent Talon, Vextar felt his confidence shake for the first time in years. "That cannot be possible. Our stealth technology is perfect. They used a primitive reflective surface to bounce light at our bioship. The light revealed our position for several seconds. They saw us clearly." Vextar studied the data coming from the bioship's sensors. The humans below were definitely aware of their presence now. But these were still just farmers and simple villagers. What could they possibly do with this knowledge? "Continue observation," he ordered, "but maintain maximum altitude. Do not let them detect you again." Back on the ground, the four humans stood in shocked silence. The dragon-like creature had disappeared again, but they all knew what they had seen. Something alien was watching. Their village, something with technology far beyond anything on Earth. "We need to contact the authorities," Jeho said, his voice shaking slightly. "The military, the government, someone who can handle this." "No," Hannah said firmly, "not yet. If we tell them what we saw, they will come with weapons and loud voices. They will frighten the dragon away, and we will learn nothing about what it wants." "But Grandmother Hannah," Soman said gently, "this creature could be dangerous. It might be planning to hurt people." "Maybe," Hannah agreed. "But it has been watching us for many days, and it has done no harm. If it wanted to hurt us, it could have done so already. I think it is studying us, trying to understand what kind of people we are." She looked up at the empty sky where the dragon had appeared. "And now it knows that we can see it. The question is, what will it do next?" That evening, the four of them sat around Hannah's kitchen table, trying to make sense of what they had discovered. Jeho's equipment had recorded everything, showing energy, signatures, and electromagnetic patterns unlike anything in Earth's databases. "The creature is definitely alive," Soman concluded after studying the readings. "It has a heartbeat, body temperature, even brain activity that shows up on the sensors. But it's also clearly artificial in some ways, like it was designed for a specific purpose." "A living spaceship," Minji said thoughtfully. "I never imagined such a thing could exist." Hannah held the bronze mirror in her hands, feeling its weight and warmth. 8 generations of her family had trusted this mirror to show them truth. Today, it had revealed the greatest truth of all. Humans were not alone in the universe. Tomorrow we try again, she said quietly. We watch, we learn, and we see if the dragon wants to talk to us. Talk to it? Jiho looked at his mother's friend with surprise. How do you talk to something like that? Hannah smiled and polished the mirror's surface with her sleeve. The same way you talk to any living thing, with patience, respect, and bye, showing that you mean no harm. She placed the mirror on the table where it reflected the warm light of her kitchen lamp, and sometimes with a simple gift that shows you understand what they need. High above, invisible in the night sky, Drakmar flew his bioship in wide circles around the village. He was confused and worried. These humans were not behaving like any species the Caltharians had encountered before. They had detected his ship, but they had not run away or called for weapons. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. The old female with the reflective device especially puzzled him. She had looked directly at his bioship when the light revealed it, but her expression had not shown fear. Instead, she had looked curious, almost welcoming. Tomorrow, he would have to decide whether these strange humans were a threat to be eliminated or something else entirely. Jiho arrives with modern sensors and equipment, representing the bridge between traditional wisdom and contemporary technology in detecting the alien presence. Ancient wisdom revelation. Hannah introduces her family's 8th-generation bronze mirror, showing how traditional tools can succeed where modern technology might fail. The mirror's reflected sunlight reveals the invisible bioship, providing the first clear visual confirmation of the alien presence and its dragon-like appearance. Alien vulnerability discovery. The story reveals that the advanced Caltharian stealth technology has an unexpected weakness to simple reflected light, something they never anticipated from a primitive species. Drakmar and Captain Vexstar realize their surveillance has been compromised, forcing them to reconsider their assumptions about human capabilities. Hannah chooses not to contact military authorities, instead preferring a patient, non-threatening approach to potential first contact with the alien intelligence. The team's different reactions to the discovery reveal their personalities. Jiho wants official help. Soman considers safety. Minji analyzes tactically, while Hannah seeks understanding and communication. The next morning came with heavy clouds that blocked the sun. Hannah sat by her rice fields with the bronze mirror in her lap, but without sunlight she could not use it to reveal the hidden dragon. Still, she felt the familiar presence above, watching and waiting. At exactly 10 o'clock, something extraordinary happened. The air above the largest rice field began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot stone. Slowly, the outline of the massive bioship became visible as it descended toward the ground. Drakmar had made a decision during the long night. These humans had detected his ship despite all their advanced technology. The old female had shown no fear when she saw him, only curiosity. Perhaps it was time to make direct contact and learn what these strange creatures wanted. The bioship settled gently onto the muddy ground beside the rice field. It was even larger than it had appeared in the sky, its transparent body as long as a city block and as wide as a highway. Wings that could cover an entire football stadium folded against its sides. 2 enormous eyes, each the size of a car, looked down at the small human figures below. Hannah stood up slowly, still holding her mirror. She felt no fear, only wonder at the beautiful creature before her. Behind her, she heard Minji, Soman, and Jiho running from the house, their voices filled with amazement and concern. "Grandmother." "Stay back," Jiho called out, but Hannah ignored him. A section of the bioship's side opened like a flower blooming, and Drakmar stepped out. He was tall, nearly 8 feet high, with 4 arms that moved with fluid grace. His skin was pale blue, and his face had features that were almost human, but not quite. He wore armor that seemed to be made of the same transparent material as his ship. Drakmar looked down at Hannah and felt confused. This tiny old female had somehow detected the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. Yet she stood before him with no weapons, no fear, showing only calm respect. "Greetings, small one," Drakmar said in his own language. His voice was deep and musical, like wind through mountain caves. Hannah could not understand his words, but she understood his tone. He was being polite, respectful. She bowed deeply in the traditional way her grandmother had taught her, then held out the bronze mirror with both hands as an offering. Drakmar stared at the mirror in surprise. Among his people, offering a reflective surface was a gesture of trust and openness. It meant the giver had nothing to hide and wished to see truth clearly. How could this primitive human know their customs? He reached out with one of his 4 hands and gently took the mirror. As his fingers touched the ancient bronze, something unexpected happened. Images flashed through his mind. He saw generations of human women caring for the land, watching the sky, reading the patterns of nature with patient wisdom. The mirror was more than just polished metal. It had absorbed the memories and experiences of 8 generations of Hannah's family. Through it, Drakmar began to understand something important about humans. They were not just primitive farmers. They were keepers of ancient knowledge, readers of signs that even advanced technology could miss. Behind Hannah, the others watched in amazement as the alien warrior and the elderly woman stood face to face in peaceful silence. Jiho's equipment was recording everything, but for once, the sophisticated sensors seemed less important than what was happening between 2 very different beings. "He's trying to communicate," someone whispered. "Look at his body language. He's being respectful." Drakmar held the mirror up and angled it to catch the weak light filtering through the clouds. In its surface, he saw his own reflection, but also something else. He saw how humans must see his kind through their eyes sharp enough to spot the invisible. On his ship high above Earth, Captain Vextar watched the scene through Drakmar's communication link. He was growing more alarmed by the minute. His pilot was supposed to be conducting reconnaissance, not making friends with the local population. "Drakmar," Vextar's voice crackled through the bioship's communication system. "Return to your ship immediately. You are compromising our mission." But Drakmar was learning something that would change everything. These humans had abilities. His people had lost long ago. They could read the world around them with senses that no machine could duplicate. The old female before him was not primitive. She was highly evolved in ways the Caltharian Empire had never considered. Hannah gestured toward her house, making the universal motion for eating and drinking. She was inviting him to share a meal, the oldest form of hospitality known to humans. Drakmar understood immediately. Despite their vast differences, some things were the same across all intelligent species. He knelt down to bring himself closer to Hannah's eye level, another sign of respect. Then he spoke into his communication device, but this time he was speaking to a different audience. "Computer," he said, "translate my words into the local human language." A moment later, words came from the bioship in careful, simple Korean. "Honored Elder, I accept your invitation. I come in peace to learn from your wisdom." Hannah smiled and nodded. She had been right to trust her instincts. This visitor from the stars came not as an enemy, but as someone seeking understanding. As they walked toward her small house, followed by the others and shadowed by the enormous bioship, Hannah thought about her grandmother's words from long ago. "When strangers come to your door, offer them food and tea. If their hearts are good, they will become friends. If their hearts are bad, they will reveal themselves quickly." She had a feeling that this tall blue stranger had a very good heart. Indeed. Behind them, Jiho was frantically trying to contact his supervisors in Seoul, but somehow all his electronic communications were being blocked. The bioship was interfering with human technology, making sure this first contact remained private for now. In the kitchen of Hannah's small house, an elderly Korean woman was about to serve tea to her first visitor from another world. And somewhere above them, Captain Vextar was beginning to realize that his simple conquest of Earth had just become much more complicated. Part description, first contact initiation. Drakmar makes the crucial decision to reveal himself and make direct contact, moving beyond surveillance to actual communication with the humans. Peaceful approach validation. Hannah's non-threatening, respectful demeanor proves her strategy correct as the alien responds with matching respect rather than aggression. Cultural bridge discovery. The bronze mirror serves as an unexpected communication. tool, revealing that both species share certain universal concepts of trust and openness. Memory transfer element. The ancient Mire carries absorbed memories of 8 generations, allowing Drakmar to understand human connection to the land and traditional wisdom. Universal hospitality. Hana's invitation to share a meal demonstrates that some aspects of civilization transcend species boundaries, showing common ground between very different beings. Command conflict. Captain. Vexstar-S growing alarm at his pilot's unauthorized contact sets up tension within the alien hierarchy about how to proceed with Earth. Technology versus wisdom theme. The story reinforces that human abilities evolved over millennia can accomplish what advanced alien technology cannot, specifically in reading intentions and building trust. Inside Hana's small kitchen, the impossible was happening. An 8-foot-tall alien warrior sat carefully on a wooden chair that creaked under his weight, while an elderly Korean woman poured tea from a clay pot that had been in her family for generations. Drakmar held the delicate cup in 2 of his 4 hands, amazed that something so fragile could contain such complex flavors. The tea was simple but perfect, grown in the soil of this world and prepared with knowledge passed down through many generations. "This is excellent," he said through the bioship's translation system. His voice came out in gentle Korean words that filled the small room. Hana smiled and poured tea for the others. Minji, Somin, and Jiho sat around the table, still unable to believe what was happening. They were having tea with a visitor from another world, and somehow it felt completely natural. "Tell us about your people," Hana said, offering Drakmar a plate of rice cakes. "Are you explorers like our old sea captains?" Drakmar paused, considering how to answer. Through the bronze mirror's strange connection, he had seen something of human history. These people had always been curious about what lay beyond their horizons, but his own people were different. "We are Caltharians," he said slowly. "We travel between the stars, but not to explore. We come to conquer worlds and take their resources for our empire." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Jiho's hands moved toward his communication device, but found that it still would not work. The bioship was blocking all electronic signals. "Then why are you here drinking tea instead of attacking us?" Minji asked, her military training making her voice steady despite her fear. "Because you have shown me something impossible," Drakmar replied. "Your kind can see what cannot be seen. You detected our most advanced technology using methods we considered primitive. Our generals believe they are planning the conquest of a simple agricultural world, but I begin to think they are wrong." He set down his teacup and looked directly at Hana. "How did you know to use the reflecting surface to find my ship?" "I watch," Hana said simply. "My grandmother taught me, and her grandmother taught her. We learn to see the signs that do not belong. The wrong ripples in water, the strange warmth in air, the birds that go quiet when nothing should frighten them. For 60 years I have read the land like a book," she continued. "Every farmer in my family learned the same skills. We notice what changes, what moves in patterns, what hides but cannot help leaving traces," Soman nodded. "In my work studying sea life, I see the same thing. Marine animals can sense things in the water that our best instruments cannot detect. They know when earthquakes are coming days before they happen. They can find food sources that are completely invisible to human technology. And I learned in the military that the human eye can spot camouflaged enemies that thermal sensors miss." Minji added, "We evolved to notice tiny differences, small movements, patterns that do not fit." Drakmar felt a cold realization growing in his mind. "You are saying that all humans have these abilities?" "Not all," Hana admitted. "Many of our young people have forgotten how to see clearly. They trust machines more than their own senses. But yes, most humans can learn to notice what tries to hide." Jiho looked up from his dead communication device. "Every fisherman knows when storms are coming before the weather reports. Every farmer can tell you things about their soil that no computer analysis will show. Every mother knows when her child is sick before any symptoms appear." "This is impossible," Drakmar whispered. Our stealth technology is perfect. It bends light, absorbs sound, masks heat signatures. No species has ever detected our bioships. Maybe no species ever needed to, Hannah suggested gently. Perhaps. The worlds you conquered before had lost touch with their natural senses. But humans have always been hunters and farmers. We learned to read signs in order to survive. Outside, the massive bioship waited in the rice field. Inside its living mind, it was processing what it had learned about humans. These creatures were not advanced in technology, but they possessed something far more valuable. They had kept their connection to the natural world, their ability to sense what did not belong. On the silent talon high above, Captain Vextar was growing more concerned by the minute. Drakmor had been on the surface too long, and his reports were becoming strange and troubling. All personnel, Vextar announced to his crew, prepare for immediate deployment. If the humans have somehow compromised our pilot, we may need to retrieve him by force. But down in the kitchen, Drakmor was learning something that would change the course of the war. He activated his personal communication device and spoke directly to his captain. Commander, I must report a critical development. The humans possess natural detection abilities that make our stealth technology useless. Every village, every farm, every settlement will have individuals capable of spotting our bioships. There was a long silence before Vextar responded. That cannot be accurate, pilot. Our technology has never failed. Sir, I am sitting in the dwelling of an elderly human female who detected my ship using reflected sunlight and pattern recognition. She has no advanced technology, yet she tracked my movements for many days. Her companions include individuals with knowledge of electromagnetic patterns, marine biology, and sensor technology. Together, they form a detection network that our computers never predicted. Drakmor took another sip of tea before continuing. Sir, I recommend we abort the invasion plan and request immediate contact with the Caltharian Science Council. These humans may have abilities our empire needs to understand. In the kitchen, Hannah listened to the alien warrior speaking in his musical language. She could not understand his words, but she could read his tone and body language. He was trying to convince someone important that humans were not easy targets. You are telling your leader that we are stronger than we look, she said quietly. Drakmor nodded. I am telling him that your people have gifts my people have forgotten. We have machines that can do anything, but we have lost the ability to truly see the world around us. He stood up carefully, his head nearly touching the ceiling of the small kitchen. I must return to my ship now. My captain is calling for me. But I want you to know that you have changed something important today. What will happen now? Soman asked. I do not know, Drakmor admitted. But I will argue that Earth should be approached as an ally, not a target. Your abilities could benefit both our peoples. Hannah stood and walked to her window. She could see neighbors from the village gathering at a safe distance, staring at the enormous bioship in her rice field. Soon, the authorities would come. Soon, this quiet moment would end. Whatever happens, she said, remember that wisdom is not about having the best tools. It is about knowing how to see clearly with the tools you have. Drakmor bowed deeply, a gesture of respect that needed no translation. Then he walked outside toward his living ship, carrying with him the knowledge that would reshape the Caltharian Empire's understanding of human capabilities. As the bioship rose silently into the sky, Hannah stood in her doorway holding the bronze mirror. In its surface, she could see the reflection of a world that had just become much more complicated and much more interesting. 3 hours after Drakmor returned to his bioship, the sky above Hannah's village filled with impossible shapes. 5 more bioships descended from the clouds, their transparent forms shimmering like mirages as they landed in the rice fields. Around the small village, Captain Vextar himself stepped out of the largest ship, his 4 arms carrying weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. He was taller than Drakmor, with scars across his pale blue skin that spoke of many battles. His yellow eyes swept over the small human settlement with the calculating gaze of a conqueror. Pilot Drakmor, Vextar called out in the Caltharian language, his voice carrying clearly across the fields. You will explain your unauthorized contact with the indigenous population, but Drakmar was not alone. Behind him walked Hannah, carrying her bronze mirror and a wooden tray with 6 teacups. Minji, Somin, and Jiho followed her, along with several other villagers who had come to see the miraculous visitors from the stars. Captain, Drakmar replied in Korean, using the bioship's translation system so all could understand. I present to you Hannah, an elder of this community. She wishes to offer you the traditional hospitality of her people. Vexstar stared in amazement. His pilot was speaking the local language, and the primitive humans were approaching armed Caltharian warriors without fear. The old female at the front carried some kind of reflective disc and what appeared to be small containers. This is highly irregular, Vexstar said, but his weapons lowered slightly. We are here to assess a potential conquest, not to socialize with the locals. Hannah stepped forward and bowed deeply to Captain Vexstar. When she straightened, she held out the bronze mirror and spoke in careful, simple words. Great leader Frone. The sky, I offer you the mirror of truth and the tea of friendship. In our custom, all visitors may share food and speak of peace before any talk of war.